How the hell are ya? It's me back again, Naylor1904, and today I'm gonna show you my record vinyl collection. If you're watching my videos, mainly my music review, album review videos, you may notice some records in the back, some album covers, or maybe you don't because most of the time it's probably not in frame. But if you notice that, you probably have thought, oh, he must collect records, and indeed I do. So today I'm going to show you my record collection. And you may ask, why do you collect records? And mainly because I'm a nerd and a loser. But anyway, let's just start this out. The way I have my records set up is I start off, it goes by the year it was released. So we're going to start with the oldest stuff first, and then we'll get to the newer stuff. This video hopefully should be broken up into like different decades, so you can just click on, whatever you want to see. It's like 50s, 60s, and as I go on, I'll talk about, I won't talk about every single record because it'll take forever. But nonetheless, I'll talk about some and just show you what I have, and maybe you can find some new music to listen to through this. Who knows? But first off, we got Miles Davis, Kinda Blue. No one knows who Miles Davis is in 2022. Let's just be honest. He's a jazz artist, though, one of the greatest jazz albums of all time. Next, we got John Coltrane's Giant Steps. Again, no one knows who that is. It's 2022. Who's listening to 50s, 60s jazz? Like, let's be honest. I love it, but, like I said, I'm a nerd. So, next, we have Coltrane's A Love Supreme. Once again, jazz. No one listens to jazz. And that's all the 3 jazz records I have. I don't have a lot of jazz. I'm hoping to get more jazz records, but that's all I got right now. Some of the greats, some of the most basic ones. So next what we have, and this is 60s records, by the way. Next we have is Bob Dylan's Highway 61 Revisited, which I'm just going to say an unpopular opinion. Dylan is better than the Beatles. Like, he just is. I'm sorry Beatlemania, but Bob Dylan is better. He's a better songwriter. His music is way better. Production's better. He has more albums that are way better than anything the Beatles ever released. Like, he's better. He just is. And this is arguably, Dylan's greatest album. Again, arguable. You could say, some people say Blonde on Blonde, some people say Blood on the Tracks, but personally my favorite is Highway 61. And so many great songs in here, Tombstone Blues, Ballad of a Thin Man, Queen Jane Approximately, Desolation Row, like just so many classics. Bob Dylan's Highway 61 Revisited. If you've not heard it, then you should definitely hear it. And if you like music that's better than the Beatles, then you should listen to it. So next up we got the Beach Boys' Pet Sounds, which again is better than the Beatles. I guess I'm just gonna be roasting the Beatles this whole video. No, I love the Beatles, but it's just like they get really annoying to listen to, especially if you've heard them a million times, and just the fan base is what it is, which I'm totally not stealing this opinion from a friend of mine, and if he knows who he is. I do, on my own, do not really care for the Beatles. Trust me, I don't just steal people's opinions, but yeah, Beach Boys' Pet Sounds. I mean, what is there not to say that's already been said? One of the greatest albums of all time. Wouldn't It Be Nice? God Only Knows, Caroline No, like, how can you go wrong with an album like that, So next up we got the Doors' debut album, The Doors, which is my favorite group of all time, is The Doors, and their debut, not actually my favorite Doors album, but yeah, we got some classics on here. Break On Through to the Other Side, the first song the Doors ever made, Soul Kitchen, Light My Fire, The End. Like, how can you go wrong with this, and it is considered the Doors' best album, and I could definitely see why. I personally like another one better, but like I said, we'll get into it. But yeah, The Doors. So next up we got Jimi Hendrix Experience, Are You Experienced? Great album. Once again, Purple Haze, Manic Depression, Hey Joe. How can you go wrong with this? Pretty crazy release from Jimmy. So next up we got The Velvet Underground and Nico's The Velvet Underground and Nico. And I don't know, great album names so far. They're just so basic, but yeah, this is a great album. You know, obviously was not appreciated when it first came out. But it, you know, over time it's become more widely known, and you know, a great album it is. You know, I wish, you know, more people would know about it. But and you know, obviously, you know, the iconic album cover, you know, with the banana, you know, everyone knows that, know that more than the music, sadly, but is true nonetheless. So next up we got Otis Redding's The Dock of the Bay. Not Redding's best album, but you know, one of the, I wanted to get something that was Otis, and I was like, why not get this? You know, the last album he ever made was released after his death, and you know, it's a pretty great soul record if you're looking to listen to that. You know, soul is probably my favorite genre of music, and you know, a great soul album. You know, from one of the best singers of all time. So how can you go wrong with that? Otis Redding, Dock of the Bay. So next up, we got Jimi Hendrix Electric Ladyland, the last album Hendrix released with The Experience, and a classic. I mean, this is probably my favorite Hendrix album. Some people say Are You Experienced, and I can see why, but just, you know, this album is just Jimmy at his best, you know, great songwriting, great singing, great guitar playing, you know, probably not the best guitar playing. Are You Experienced probably has better guitar playing, but nonetheless, still great, and very influential. We got Led Zeppelin's debut album called Led Zeppelin. It's still really great. You know, got Good Times, Bad Times, got Dazed and Confused, you know, Communication Breakdown. I mean, it's a classic, and especially, you know, at the time it was released, not a lot of hard rock was released at this time, and you know, just the fact that it's their debut, you know, Led Zeppelin at their most rawest, you know, that's what I love the most about this album, is how raw it is, you know. Led Zeppelin with a lot of talent that they don't really know what to do with, but still obviously a great album, you know, not that that's a bad thing at all. Totally hate the Beatles. Honestly, not even my favorite Beatles album. I like Sgt. Pepper's a lot more, and even Revolver more, and I really don't like Abbey Road because, you know, just everyone's like, oh, Abbey Road's the greatest, and I really don't think it is, but I mean, still nonetheless, Abbey Road's a great album. Who cares, honestly? Everyone knows the Beatles. If you don't, then I'm honestly surprised. So we're just gonna skip over that. Next one, Rolling Stones' Let It Bleed, the last 60s album that I have, a masterpiece. Give Me Shelter. I mean, what more is there to say that already hasn't been said? So that closes up the 60s, you know, with a bang. 70s, we got Black Sabbath's Paranoid. Man, do I love this album so much. Definitely one of my favorite albums by one of my favorite bands. You know, War Pigs, Paranoid, Planet Caravan, Iron Man. Like, how can you go wrong with an album like this? And again, the time it was released, I mean, metal music was not really a thing, and Black Sabbath came in with this heavy sound that had never been seen before, and released some great music, you know. Next up, we got Carole King's Tapestry. You know, no one probably knows this album, but it's a great singer-songwriter album, you know, has a lot of emotional moments on it. Next up is my favorite Doors album, LA Woman, is the last thing the Doors ever released, and in no way is it better than the debut, but it just has so many, I just love Jim Morrison's singing on this album, you know. This was Jim Morrison at his most drugged up, at his most drunk self, and it's just, you know, such a classic, and it still has a lot of great songs on it, you know. Love Her Madly, The Changeling, Riders on the Storm. Like, how can you go wrong with an album like that, you know? And that's my favorite Doors album, and I had to get it. So next up, we got Marvin Gaye's What's Going On. You know, classic album, such a great album talking about racism and you know, discrimination in America, and just Marvin's approach to it, you know, to not be so much in your face, but rather just posing questions and just getting people to think, you know. I just love it so much, and actually not my favorite Marvin Gaye album, but I still love it nonetheless, and it definitely is one of the greatest albums of all time. And so, Marvin Gaye, What's Going On? Funkadelic's Maggot Brain. I had to get it. I'm someone who really loves funk, and this is a really unique album as it's funk, but it's also hard rock. I think this album is a very big influence on Red Hot Chili Peppers. You know, not a lot of people have heard Funkadelic, but I really think that Red Hot Chili Peppers takes a lot from Funkadelic, and Maggot Brain in particular. And you know, it's such a great album. And I mean, just like, look at the album cover. Look at that album cover. How can you go wrong with that? And the backside, you know, with the skeleton. Classic. Next up, we got a pretty mid album, not gonna lie, Shaft. I just got it just because I personally love it, but it really is a very okay album. We got what is not Bruce Springsteen's Born in the USA. It is Sly and the Family Stone's There's a Riot Going On. A lot of people think this is Bruce Springsteen's Born in the USA, which I don't know why. Has anyone ever seen that album cover? It's not a freaking American flag. It's just Bruce with with his hand in his pocket. Like, I don't know why people get that confused. Very annoying, but once again, a great funk album. You know, how can you go wrong? Sly and the Family Stone, their most experimental and their best. So next up we got Led Zeppelin 4, Led Zeppelin 4, and again, what is there really to be said that hasn't already been said? Stairway to Heaven, you know. Next up we got Al Green's Let's Stay Together. Such a great soul album, you know, such great singing, and yeah, I love it. Next up we got one of my all-time favorite albums of all time. It is Neil Young's Harvest, and you know, I know the way Neil Young has been he's not gotten good with old age, but you know, to put aside all the new Neil Young stuff and the old Neil Young, you cannot deny the impact that Neil Young had on popular music, and especially with folk, classic rock, and singer-songwriter. Just such a great album that has such great guitar playing and such great lyrics. Truly, Neil Young is one of the greatest songwriters of all time, and I just love this album so much. We got Curtis Mayfield's Superfly, by far the most badass album of all time. No arguments there. You know, but it's also very emotional. Not to say that it's like this really cool album. It very much deals with racism and stuff like that. And I mean, yeah, Curtis Mayfield's such a great singer. Next up, we got Rolling Stones' Exile on Main Street. Probably the greatest double album of all time, and probably the greatest Rolling Stones album of all time. You know, there's just so many great songs on this thing. And the album cover, I mean, it's a lot to look at, man. It's a lot to look at. Next up, we got Dark Side of the Moon, annoyingly, just because, you know, a lot of people know it, and it's really annoying, you know, people that are like, oh, this describes the way my life is, I relate to this album. It's just annoying, but it is a great album nonetheless. You cannot deny it. You know, it has that kind of sort of movie, classic film feel to it. You know, it feels like you're watching a movie when you're listening to it, but I mean, yeah, what can I say that already hasn't been said? Great album. Once again, another basic, you know, Fleetwood Mac Rumors, Dreams, one of the biggest TikTok songs of all time. But it is a great album, cannot deny that. Next up, we got Television Marquee Moon, which a lot of people probably won't know, but it's a really great album, you know, that is really influential and sadly was not really recognized at the time it came out. And I don't know why that is, but yeah, it's a great album, and I absolutely love it. And yeah, has got some of the freaking nastiest guitar riffs ever. So yeah, next up we got Elvis Costello's Armed Forces, Elvis Costello and the Attractions. Honestly, this album is not the best. It's not that bad, but it's not the best. And I was really just looking for a Costello album because I really like Costello, and didn't have, you know, the ones that I wanted, but still, you know, I got it. It was like $8, so I was like, might as well get it, you know. Next up, we got Nirvana's Unknown Pleasures. Just kidding. Next up, we got Michael Jackson's Off the Wall. Probably my favorite Michael Jackson album. You know, probably one of the greatest disco albums of all time. And I think it's a really great way to end the disco era, so I absolutely love it. Next up, we got London Calling's The Clash. London Calling by The Clash. You know, the only band that ever mattered, and it's true. I don't even listen to any other music. Just listen to The Clash, and you'll be good. But yeah, a great album. Love it. And what's kind of funny is I kind of forget how good London Calling is. You know what I mean? I listen to it every once in a while, and then I just kind of forget that it's, you know, actually an album that exists. And then I go through and listen to it again, and I'm like, wow, this is like one of the greatest albums ever, because it is, you know. So yeah, London Calling, and that closes up the 70s. Next up, now we got the 80s, and the first thing we got is Joy Division's Closer. That other album was Joy Division, in case you didn't get the joke. But yeah, I absolutely love Joy Division a lot. You know, probably one of my favorite bands. And just with this album, you know, just kind of where Ian Curtis was at this time. It's kind of known as the Suicide Album because, you know, he killed himself. It was released after his death, and you know, some of the most depressing music I've ever heard, but you know, it's just so great, and I just absolutely love it. So next up we got Talking Heads' Remain in Light, one of the greatest albums of all time, but also just one of the greatest post-punk new wave albums ever. And Talking Heads, probably the most funkiest white band ever. So yeah, next up we got David Bowie's Let's Dance. Nowhere near Bowie's best album, but personally my favorite. I just really love 80s Bowie a lot. I don't know why, I just really do. I don't know, I think that Bowie made a lot of really great pop songs in the 80s, and that album has some of his best pop songs. So David Bowie's Let's Dance. Next up we got Power, Corruption, and Lies by New Order, who Joy Division became known as after Ian Curtis killed himself, is New Order, and you know, is a really great album. Next up we got Echo and the Bunnymen's Ocean Rain. Yes, Killing Moon is on this album, but no, it's a really great album. I really love it a lot. One of the very first probably alternative albums, although that could be debated. It could be known as new wave or post-punk, but I think it is alternative, and yeah, it's a great album, you know. Has a lot of happy songs, has a lot of depressing songs, and that's what I love about it. Next up, we got Prince of the Revolution, Purple Rain. Of course, you know, had to get it. Classic album. Next up, yes. Anyway, we'll move on. The Smiths, The Queen is Dead. Such a great album. You know, I Know It's Over, Big Mouth Strikes Again, Boy, The Thorn in His Side, you know, so many classics. Truly the Smiths' greatest album. So yeah, next up we got Sister by Sonic Youth, a really great album by the New York Noise group, and I just really love Sonic Youth a lot, and you know, they really influenced a lot of those 90s alternative grunge bands like Nirvana. Really were ahead of their time, and I really loved Sister a lot. You know, Schizophrenia, such a great opening track, probably the greatest album opener of all time. Next up we got Appetite for Destruction by Guns N' Roses. Again, you already know. Welcome to the Jungle, Paradise City, you know, Sweet Child O' Mine. What is there not to say about it? Classic, great, one of the greatest albums of all 80s albums of all time. Next up we got Public Enemy's It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back. Probably my favorite hip hop album of all time. I don't really think of anything that could be better. I mean, yeah, just the energy that Public Enemy brings to their music is just so awesome. And you know, whether or not you agree with their message or not, you cannot deny the impact that they had on hip hop. I think really the first greatest hip hop group of all time. I'm not counting Beastie Boys because they're kind of rap rock, but like Run DMC was good, but like Public Enemy took it to a whole nother level, you know. And like, yeah, Grandmaster Flash and the Furious 5 were great as well, but again, Public Enemy just took it to a whole new level. Whereas those groups only had, you know, hit songs. Public Enemy made albums that were really great, and so yeah, I love it. So next up we got Sonic Youth's Daydream Nation, probably the Sonic Youth's greatest album, and rightfully in its own, you know, very experimental, very poetic, and just a great album all around. You know, you can't go wrong. Teenage Riot, you know. So next up we got A Tribe Called Quest's Low End Theory. You know, another great hip hop album that has a lot of jazz in it, which is really cool. Yeah, we got Rage Against the Machine's debut album, Rage Against the Machine. Much like Public Enemy, again, the energy that they bring, it's just so cool, just rap rock, you know. I mean, they weren't the first ones to do that, but still nonetheless just such awesome music, such energetic music that really makes you mad. But yeah, Bomb Track, Killing in the Name, Take the Power Back. Like, how can you go wrong with an album like this? And the famous picture that has unfortunately been taken way out of its context, but nonetheless, is a great album nonetheless. Stuff we got, Automatic for the People, REM. I mean, again, what is there to say that already hasn't been said? One of my favorite albums of all time. Nirvana's In Utero. I mean, I'm not gonna talk about Nirvana. Again, everybody knows Nirvana. Next up, we got Dookie by Green Day. Yes, Longview, Basket Case, When I Come Around, just so many classics. I personally like this album more than American Idiot. I can accept that American Idiot probably is the better album, but I just love the early Green Day stuff. Thousands, and we got Arcade Fire's Funeral. Such a great album. Back when Arcade Fire was actually indie, they're not indie anymore. If anyone tells you they're not, they are mainstream. But yeah, not a lot of people have heard this album, and it's a really great album, and I love it so much. You know, all the Neighborhoods and Wake Up, just so many great songs on it, and really shaped what would be 2000s, later 2000s alternative music. Next up, we got one of my favorite albums of all time, Amy Winehouse, Back to Black. So many, literally every song is perfect, honestly. Every song is great. Just Amy Winehouse, one of the greatest singers of all time. I love it. I love it so much. Next up, we got In Rainbows by Radiohead, with the iconic, the epic album cover. And I'm not gonna say anything because, as one of my good friends in high school said, you can't be telling anyone you like Radiohead. You just can't, you know? It's not something that people can know. So I'm not gonna say anything. 2000s, now we got 2010s, which only one record from 2010s, which is Lana Del Rey's Born to Die. Such a great album that Fantano doesn't like, and I don't know why he doesn't like. Such a great album. One of the greatest albums of the 2010s. I mean, like, Born to Die, Off to the Races, Video Games, like, so many great songs. I love the orchestra approach that Lana Del Rey takes to the studio. Just these songs are so otherworldly. I mean, man, such a great album, such a great album. And that's it for the 2010s, and I got one 2020s record, believe it or not. I know it's only been like 2 years, but I got Phoebe Bridgers' Punisher. And Phoebe Bridgers is a current indie artist who's kind of becoming mainstream, but kind of still indie. This is easily her best album. I just love it so much. It's kind of folk indie, with some rock songs on it, but it's mainly folk and singer-songwriter, and so many emotional moments on this album. Love it so much. And yeah, Phoebe Bridgers' Punisher. And I got a bunch of compilation greatest hits albums, but I'm not going to go over that just because they're not albums. So that's it for my record collection. I really hope to get more. I have 59 records, by the way. I don't know if I said that. I was planning on making this video when I hit 50, but now I have 59. So, some more records I want. I kind of want some more metal stuff, like some Metallica, some Iron Maiden, some Megadeth. Because right now all I really have is that Black Sabbath record, which isn't really metal. It's more of like what was to become of metal. And I also want more hip hop stuff. You know, some Biggie, Ready to Die. Almost said Born to Die because the Lana Del Rey one. You know, some Nas Illmatic, some Wu-Tang Clan. You know, I want some stuff like that. But also some new stuff like Kendrick and J. Cole, and you know. And what else do I want? That's pretty much it. I think I got a really great rock collection and a great alternative collection. I probably want some more soul stuff just because I personally love soul, but I feel like that's pretty good too. I also just want more newer music, you know, some new 90s, some 90s records, some 2000s, some 2010s, you know. But all in all, I really like my record collection. And so tell me what you thought of my record collection, if you liked any of it, or if you thought that it was really stupid and most of it sucked. And if it does, then true, you know. So thank you guys for watching, and have a great day.